Welcome to this explainer on IPv6 troubleshooting. Look, we are right in the middle of a massive transition in the networking world today. So we're diving into part 1 of an 8-part tutorial called IPv6 troubleshooting for system administrators and technical support. This is put together by Virtualization Options LLC. They're a Colorado-based tech research and education group. If you're a sysadmin or on a tech support team, you already know IPv4 inside and out. And you're helping your org migrate to IPv6, well, you are exactly in the right place. We're focusing strictly on Chapter 1 today, which is all about the fundamental mindset shift you absolutely need to make this leap.
Okay, let's jump right in. The most crucial concept we're tackling today is this. Before you can troubleshoot IPv6 effectively, you actually have to unlearn your IPv4 assumptions. You know, IPv6 isn't just a bigger address space slapped on top of IPv4. It is a fundamentally different beast with completely new rules. To master it, our very first step is to literally break our ingrained IPv4 muscle memory. We've got to stop expecting IPv6 to act like its older sibling.
So here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with unlearning those IPv4 habits, move into the dual stack reality, cover core protocols, look at the ICMPv6 and MTU trap, discuss VPNs and tunnels, and then wrap up with the golden rules of IPv6.
All right, Section 1. Unlearning IPv4 muscle memory.
The very first visual shock you're going to get is right at the device level. In the old IPv4 days, you usually had one IP address, right? Like 192.168.0.10. Simple. But with IPv6, a single interface is going to host multiple addresses at the exact same time. And hey, this is totally normal. You're going to see a link local address starting with fee80, a global unicast address, and probably a few temporary privacy addresses all living there together. So, if you pop open your network settings and see 4 IPv6 addresses on one adapter, take a deep breath, don't try to fix it. That interface is doing exactly what it was designed to do.
And the differences definitely don't stop there. Think about broadcasts. In IPv4, we leaned on them heavily. But in IPv6, broadcast is dead, gone. It's been entirely replaced by multicast. So those old ping 255, 255, 255, 255 commands, completely useless now. On top of that, NAT, Network Address Translation, which we relied on to hide whole corporate networks behind one IP, is basically absent. Every device in IPv6 is potentially globally routable. That alone completely flips your firewall design and your basic security assumptions upside down.
Moving on to Section 2, the dual stack reality.
Now let's talk about what happens when both protocols are running at once, which brings us to a really clever concept called happy eyeballs. Modern browsers actually prefer IPv6, so they'll try to connect over it first. But they also race it against an IPv4 connection, giving IPv6 about a 250 millisecond head start. Here's the trap though. If your IPv6 path is broken, the browser just silently falls back to IPv4. The user still gets their web page, but every single connection takes a 250 millisecond penalty. To them, the network just feels sluggish. As the admin, you might ping it, see a reply, and think everything's peachy. But in reality, you've got a silent failure on a broken IPv6 path. You absolutely have to test both stacks independently, or these hidden issues will drive you crazy.
All right, Section 3. Core protocol troubleshooting.
In the IPv4 world, we used gratuitous ARP to stop IP conflicts. Well, in IPv6, we use DAD, duplicate address detection, and it works in a very strict 3-step sequence. First, the host starts DAD by sending out a multicast message for the address it wants to use, its tentative address. Second, if someone else replies, boom, conflict detected. Third, that address gets tagged as DAD failed and the interface immediately loses global connectivity. So if some rogue device, or maybe a cloned virtual machine with the exact same MAC address trips this up, your device is going nowhere. Always check your interface status for that specific DAD failed flag.
Oh, and speaking of ARP, it is completely gone. It's been swapped out for the Neighbor Discovery Protocol, or NDP. Because of this, you're going to need to memorize a whole new set of commands to clear your cache. If you're on Linux, you'll run IP6, nay flush. Windows folks, you're looking at netship interface, IPv6, delete neighbors. And on Cisco routers, it's clear IPv6 neighbors. Go ahead and stick those on a post-it note because NDP issues are usually step 1 when local connectivity drops.
Let's look at one more massive protocol shift, getting your default gateway. With IVP4, DHCP basically handed you a static gateway lease, and you just held onto it until the lease expired. But IVP6, it relies totally on periodic router advertisements, or RAs. If your switch or firewall is misconfigured and happens to block those RAs, the host will silently drop its default route and just vanish from the network. There's no explicit gateway renewal anymore.
It is a constantly updating, dynamic process.
Next up, Section 4, the ICMP v6 and MTU trap.
Okay, this is the classic symptom of the biggest trap in IPv6. A user calls, says the network is down. You do a quick ping to the server, and it works perfectly. You're thinking, the network is fine. But then you try to do a large data transfer, fire up an SSH session, or load a heavy HTTPS site, and the whole thing just completely hangs right after the TCP handshake. Seriously, why do tiny packets get through fine while big packets just vanish into thin air? Well, you're looking at a path MTU discovery failure. In IPv4, routers would nicely fragment large packets for you. In IPv6, routers completely refuse to fragment. If a packet is too big for a link, the router just drops it and shoots back an ICMPv6 Type 2 message, literally called packet too big, telling the sender, hey, shrink this down. The immediate fix here? You absolutely must permit ICMPv6 Type 2 inbound on every single one of your firewalls. If your firewall drops that message, the sender never knows to resize the packet and your connection just hangs there forever. And honestly, this highlights a much bigger rule. Never, ever block ICMPv6 entirely. Back in the day, security admins loved to just blindly drop all ICMP traffic. Do that in IPv6 and you will instantly break your network. There are specific ICMPv6 types that are absolutely mandatory. Types 1, 2, and 3 handle error signaling and path MTU discovery. Types 133 through 137, those run the neighbor discovery protocol we just talked about. Block these and your hosts can't find routers, can't resolve addresses, and can't route anything large. I cannot stress this enough. ICMPv6 is sacred.
Section 5, VPNs, tunnels, and clients.
If you're moving toward IPv6-only environments, you're going to run into NAT64 and DNS64. DNS64 magically synthesizes IPv6 AAA records for your old IPv4-only servers, and NAT64 translates those packets right at the gateway. It's a genuinely brilliant transition tool. But it fails instantly if you have legacy apps that hardcode IPv4 literals. If your software tries to connect directly to 1.2.3.4 instead of using a DNS hostname, it completely bypasses DNS64, and bam, the connection fails on an IPv6-only network.
And don't even get me started on corporate VPNs. Older VPN clients can fail spectacularly with IPv6. Sometimes they create split tunnel leaks, meaning your IPv4 traffic is nice and encrypted, but your IPv6 traffic is just dangerously spilling out onto the local unencrypted network. Other times, the VPN just kills IPv6 routing entirely, cutting you off from modern resources. You've got to manually review those VPN configs, make sure IPv6 is explicitly routed through the tunnel, and keep a sharp eye out for split DNS misconfigurations, where your internal queries are accidentally leaking to the outside world.
Finally, Section 6, Golden Rules of IP6.
Let's wrap this up with 5 golden rules you can take back to your desk today. Number 1. Always test both stacks independently using tools like curl-6 and curl-4. That's how you catch those silent dual stack failures. Number 2. Treat ICMPv6 as sacred. Do not block it entirely. Number 3. Get comfortable with your NDP tools because ARP is a thing of the past. Number 4. Accept that seeing multiple IP addresses per interface is totally normal and correct. And number 5. Document your prefix delegations because when an ISP dynamically changes a prefix, it will silently shatter your static configurations.
I want to leave you with a question to really chew on today. Ask yourself right now, are your current legacy firewall policies silently breaking your IPv6 network before you even finish deploying it? Are you unknowingly blocking those vital ICMPv6 packet too big messages? I highly encourage you to go audit your edge devices this week. Well, that wraps up our explainer on Chapter 1 of the Virtualization Options LLC IPv6 tutorial. Thanks so much for hanging out and learning with me, and good luck out there on the dual stack network.